most people, well, how would you call most people, what would you describe their selling technique as?
Talking at you.
Starts with, it's two, both words start with V. What would we call it?
Verbal vomit.
Verbal vomit. Yeah, can you think about what that is? That's like the telemarketer that calls you and they're reading that script so fast and it's just like they're barfing through the phone into your ear. How does that feel?
Not pleasant.
Unless you're really weird, that does not feel good. Right, Scott? Right. That's right. So we know we don't like that, and so maybe we can, I'm not saying we all do that all the time. You think some of us get into that little habit every once in a while. So we want to get away from that if we can. That's sort of the goal of this. If you come out of anything with this, maybe you come out with a couple little techniques that you could tweak in your presentation style or your selling style or whatever it might be to where you become more effective. How's that sound, Kevin?
Sounds wonderful.
Excellent. All right. So Betsy helped me create a PowerPoint. Have we ever heard of PowerPoint before? It's a really new thing. Just came out. Oh, by the way, if you don't have one of these fancy Hometown U t-shirts, make sure you pick one of these up on the way out. There's no charge for this. Benjamin designed this. Hometown U. Everybody have one of these? Some people wear them. You can cut the sleeves off if you want. You can go midriff, however you want to do it. It's all good. All right. Then you'll really get some questions. All right, let's talk about this. So, all right, now I got you guys excited. All right, so when we're talking about asking questions, there's certain things that questions can create. There's certain things that are important about asking questions. So why is it important to ask questions? Okay, if you don't ask any questions, then I guess another way to phrase this, look at number one. If I don't ask any questions, where could I potentially go with my selling angle? Could I go down the wrong path? Yeah, I could make assumptions because I just don't really know what you're looking to do. You know, and that happens all the time. So you can, if you ask questions, you're trying to get to the customers, and I would underline true needs, desires, and objections. You're trying to find the truth about what they want to do. So somebody tells you they want to move, well, that's great. You might make assumptions that maybe they're getting relocated, maybe they've got an expanding family, maybe they're getting divorced, maybe something has happened financially, they need to downsize, something like that. But you don't know, right? So it's important to know exactly what's going on. Now, I don't know, so Betsy's a much better person than me. I don't know why these words are over here, but we'll try to remember what those words are. So number two is keep them engaged and involved in the conversation. So if somebody's just preaching to you, is that a conversation? No. Do you want to be preached to all the time? No, Rodney says no. Okay, so if I ask you a question, then what do you get to do? Talk, right? It'd be like playing tennis, right? If you never got to hit the ball, tennis wouldn't be that fun, right? I don't know much about tennis, but I'm trying to incorporate my man here from JMU who likes to play tennis. All right, Abby, you ever playing tennis? Never played tennis. That's weird. Maybe you can play tennis with Abby and get her into tennis or
Not be very good.
Anybody watch the Olympic tennis? Any of that?
Table tennis.
Who won? Who won the gold medal? No. Djokovic. Who did he beat?
Alcaraz?
Alcaraz is a Spaniard who had won Wimbledon and has beaten Djokovic several times. But Djokovic is very emotional for Djokovic to win. Anyway, so if you ask questions, you can keep somebody engaged in the conversation, right? This is probably the most important one. Leads to self-discovery and stimulates thinking. What do I mean when I say leads to self-discovery?
Well, it helps them truly identify what their needs are.
Correct. And then, but self-discovery, not just in needs, what else do I mean by self-discovery?
figure out what they want, a lot of times answer the objections on their own.
Correct. Well, you can help guide them to solving their own problems. And there's a number of techniques of doing that, but it all starts with questions, right? If you just tell somebody the answer, it's not as good. You know, there's an old analogy like if, I guess kids today don't ride bikes, nor do they ever try to earn any money. But back in the day when kids did ride bikes and they did try to earn money to buy a bike, you say if you give a child a bike, then they like that. But if a kid earns the money to buy their own bike, then they'll really appreciate it even more. So this is sort of like that. If I can ask a series of questions that's going to lead you to the desired result, and you get it on your own with a little prodding from me, that's probably more effective than me just telling you. Does that make sense? Okay, good. All right, what about number 4? Helps build rapport. Is rapport an important part of selling? Huge. Do you have to be best buddies with the clients that you work with?
Nope.
No, you don't. If you don't have any rapport, does it usually work out?
No.
It usually doesn't. So somewhere on the rapport meter, you need to be over 5. Doesn't need to be perfect, but you've got to build some kind of rapport. All right? And asking questions is going to help that. So you can, do the questions that help build rapport, are they always relevant to real estate? No. Should you ask questions in your selling that are not relevant to real estate?
Yes.
Yeah. Because ultimately they may become relevant to real estate. Once you get to know somebody a little bit better, you may be able to help them identify needs that you didn't understand before. All right, so if you ask a question, what's an important skill to develop after you ask the question?
Being quiet.
Listen.
So God gave us how many ears?
2.
Most of us have 2. Some of us have larger than others. And then how many mouths do we get? 1. So they say use those proportionately. But what do we normally do? We flip that around and we're going lots of mouth and not a lot of ears. Okay? So if you listen, what does that communicate to the person you're talking with?
You're interested.
That you care.
That you care.
You're interested, you care. So on a side note, to become a better listener, how do you let someone know that you're listening to them? What are some techniques you
You
can?
could repeat back what they just said to you.
That's where I was going. Repeating and affirming. So if you say to me, like, oh, let's go through something. What is your name?
Andrew.
Andrew and I are in a little role play. So Andrew, where are you from? How'd you move to Richmond? What's your favorite color? Where are you from? What's your favorite color?
Green.
What's your name again?
Andrew.
So am I listening to him? No. Like the telemarketer, they're reading the script. No matter what you say, they're going to the next question. You know, that just doesn't communicate sincerity. It doesn't communicate interest. It doesn't communicate any kind of rapport. You're just moving on, and people don't like that. So becoming a better listener, you can repeat and affirm. So if he says, hey, I live in Powhatan. Powhatan, man, that's great. You have like a property, a bigger property, or a subdivision? What kind of deal is it?
It's a little 1 acre lot.
Oh, cool, 1 acre lot.
Yeah, a little rancher.
And what made you choose that?
Just starting out, first house, and
I
just
got
kind of really wanted something smaller, but thinking about moving something bigger.
So in your first place, you needed something smaller, probably couldn't afford the big farm yet, but
Right.
you know, it's been a nice experience for you.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
great. So that's a lot better than just firing off the next question down the line. I'm clarifying, I'm interested, I'm probing, and moving on. So you need to become a better listener. In order to do that, you have to ask questions, and after you ask them, you got to zip it and listen. All right? Who has control? This is an interesting question. Who has control of the conversation? The one who's asking the questions, or the one who is responding to the questions? Asking the questions. Yeah. So anyway, that's sort of part of why we're doing this. Is if we can accomplish all this, then we're on our way to being a little bit more successful as salespeople. All right, moving right along here. All right, I wrote down, most of us are not naturals when it comes to asking questions. Now, do we all ask questions from time to time? Yes or no?
Just like that.
Yes.
Yeah, we do. Everybody's capable of asking questions. It just, are we that good at it, and are we able to do it in a selling kind of fashion and in a selling environment? And we'll see. We're going to do a little exercise in a minute. So here's a little exercise that can help you at least get started, right? Before you have your meeting or whatever you're doing, your buyer presentation or a listing presentation or whatever it might be, you can write down on an index card, or you can write down on a yellow pad or on your iPad or whatever kind of thing you got, some quality questions that you might want to ask. Okay? And we'll get to a few of those specifics in a second. All right, then don't be afraid to take those with you. Sometimes people are like, well, I don't really want to have any notes. Well, why? People usually don't disrespect you because you have notes. Some people really like that because it means that you're trying to be organized. So if you take those to the meeting, then this can help you sort of keep on target, accomplish the goals that you have, and get those questions answered. Yeah, remember this, you may not wind up, and the questions you have written down may not be the right questions or whatever. That's okay. You may not go down the path after you ask one. The other ones might not be appropriate, or maybe they answer the other ones after you've asked the first question, and that's okay. But at least you've got some way to get started. Does that make sense? Good. Okay. So far, so good. So here's the common myth is people say, hey, man, that guy's a great talker. He's a great salesperson. Well, the fact is, to be a great salesperson, you have to be a great listener and a great question asker. So here's some different kinds of questions. The first ones are the ones that you really want to become the best at. And these are open-ended questions. Why are open-ended questions important when you're selling?
More conversation, with only one word answer.
It's difficult to give a one-word answer to ones that are led by who, what, where, when, why, and how. Probably could do it, but it's more difficult. You're more likely to strike up some conversation with those kinds of questions, with the open-ended questions, versus yes or no questions, true or false, or whatever else. So, right? You get it. Okay, here's true or false questions. You do want to buy a home, true or false? All right, alternative choice questions. So this is a great selling technique. I guess here's a sort of an obscure example that just came to my head. You could hire me, a professional, to help you, or you could hire some bozo. Which would be better for you? Right? That's an alternative. I'm asking a question, but I'm really limiting the choices. You understand that? So that's another technique that can help you guide the decision, or just guide their decision making, and take them down a path where you want them to go. Clarifying questions. What's a clarifying question?
So what you're saying is,
That's a good way to lead into it. So what I'm hearing you say is, or like in the case of, live in Powhatan. Well, then you can dive deeper. So what was special about Powhatan? How big of a lot you live? Whatever else. You can sort of probe in and clarify. But again, make sure you're not going down, just you get something in your mind. Like for instance, with objections sometimes. Somebody might say, we want you to cut your commission. Does that ever come up? Does that ever come up? So what are some assumptions you could make based on that statement?
They're trying to save money.
Right. Is that a logical assumption? Is it always valid?
No.
What's another assumption you could make? They hate paying commission. Or maybe where they work, they only get 2% commission, or whatever it is. So they're jealous. I don't know. There's all sorts of assumptions you can make. We want to move to Florida. What do you think about when people say, I want to move to Florida? The sun. No, actually, I have skin cancer. That's the last place I want to be. But their kids could be in Florida. Maybe they're, whatever. They're taking a new job in Florida. You just got to be careful jumping to conclusions. Just make sure you clarify and ask the right questions, and that'll help them tell you exactly what's going on. All right? Yes or no questions. Are they ever appropriate when you're selling?
Sure.
When?
Do you see yourself living here?
Yes. Hey.
Sign you?
Yeah. So one little, there's a school of thought called neuro-linguistic programming. Has anybody ever heard of that? NLP. Very interesting science. It's almost, I use the example of like, it's like the Jedi mind trick, like in Star Wars.
Oh, yeah.
Some of you, how many of you have not seen Star Wars? Not the new kind of Star Wars, I mean the real Star Wars. So only one of you have you've not seen it. That's okay. That's fine. You can leave.
Don't look
So
around,
they
I
go,
haven't seen it either.
they're on that moon thing, and they're in that what is that thing called? Like, there's no tires on the vehicle.
Land
They
speeder.
ride
It's a land speeder. It's a land speeder.
Land speeder, of course it is. And so, and it's like Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan Kenobi, he's like the master of the Jedi whole thing. Anyway, and like the stormtroopers come up and they're like, hey, wait a minute, are these the droids we're looking for? And Obi-Wan Kenobi's like, no, these are not the droids we're looking for. And that one stormtrooper looks at it and goes, no, these are not the droids we're looking for. I think that's almost like the epitome of just being like the world's greatest salesman, but they're using the Force, and we don't have the Force really isn't real.
Wait.
It's,
It says who-
I didn't come here for that.
Yeah, I know you did. We're trying to let you down easy on that. But you can use some techniques that can really help people sort of go where you want them to go. Okay? Again, we're not trying to swindle anybody in anything at all. We're trying, if somebody's got a need and we think we can help them, we're trying to lock in the position of us being the one to help them and then work them down the road to making a decision that we think would make sense for them. Is that fair? It's not like we're trying to, if somebody doesn't, like, I have a hard time selling water purifiers. Anybody here sell water purifiers? Yeah, I think pure water is probably a good thing, but I lived my whole life without it, and I don't think I really need it. And I'd have a hard time selling to people that didn't need it. But housing, like, any of y'all ever live outside? Not many people do, not many people want to, so I think that's a valid thing. People, if they come to you and say, I'm thinking about a house, I never feel guilty about selling them. Get that? Okay. I don't know how I got on that. That's all part of the Jedi mind trick deal. Okay. So, yes or no questions. One thing that's good with yes or no questions is building affirmative responses as part of NLP. So, like, one of the things that you can do when you initially see somebody, you sit down, is go through and ask questions that you already know the answers to, maybe based on your pre-qualification. And you can say things like, so you moved here from France? Yes. And you chose this house, like you told me you chose this house because there wasn't a whole lot on the market, but you came in and you saw this kitchen and loved it. That's exactly right, yeah. What was the best thing? So you clarify that a little bit, but you're just building yes, and affirmative in hopes that will build a pattern of that. So you want me to help you sell your home, is that right? Yes, just like all these other yeses. Okay, doesn't always work. No questions. Can you guide people with yes or no questions?
Yeah.
What would be a good example? And let's use a listing environment. You're in a listing table. What could you say to help guide somebody to want to work with you at the listing table?
You believe that I can save your home?
Correct. That's a good one. What else?
I like to ask people if there's any reason they did not want to work with me.
There you go. So that's sort of a yes or no thing. I think that
Oh, sorry, I didn't
that's
realize
more of an
you-
open-ended
I'm
question,
sorry.
but I love it.
I didn't realize you were looking for
Errol,
this.
we'll
I'm
give
sorry, I
that
missed that.
thumbs up.
My bad.
Thumbs up. Do you agree we should give Errol a thumbs up on that? That's a yes or no question. Okay, we all said yes.
Great.
Okay, how about on a no? What kind of answer would you want to have a no?
Do you think you're gonna be talking to any more agents after talking to me?
There you go. You're not going to be talking to any more.
You're wasting more of your time.
Right.
You'd never try to sell this house yourself.
No. I mean, there's certain things you can do, and it's funny, some of the gesticulations, you know what that means?
Yes.
That's like your body language, or body language is a big part of selling, isn't it?
Yes.
Isn't it? Don't you want to work with me? When you when you nod your head and smile, is that sort of contagious?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I used to tell people, like, that's how Mike corrupted me in college. Like, you can just get up in the morning and stuff. That didn't work out that often. Anyway, we did have a lot of fun. So you can use yes or no to help guide in the direction that you want. Assumptive questions. Is that a, did everybody understand what assumptive questions are? It's a good example right here. Wouldn't you like to get your home sold for top dollar and get to Florida by September? And I sort of know that, I know the answer, and so I'm assuming what the response is going to be.
Kind of like a leading question.
Yeah, exactly right. So now, let me just ask you this. So you would like to get top dollar for your house? I'm assuming that's, yeah, obviously. You know, are you looking to work with somebody who really doesn't know anything about the real estate business, or you want somebody with experience? Yeah, now if you don't have any experience, don't ask the question. So, you know, those are assumptive questions that can help push the conversation in the right direction, help make up the mind. Like you're, you know, in that situation when you talk about the experience versus the inexperience, what is the result, one of the results of that question to the potential client? If I say, are you looking to work with somebody who has experience, who can really get the job done? Or are you thinking about somebody who maybe just got their license in the last 6 months to a year?
They want the experience.
Why?
Makes you feel comfortable.
Because even without saying anything bad about the inexperience, you don't want to choose that option. The other option is so much better. You just assume that you're going to want to choose that. Okay? But anyway, there's some types of questions. So think about your presentations. How much of this is involved in your presentation? Hopefully a lot. Hopefully some. Does everything you say in your presentation, does it have to be a question? Doesn't have to be. But developing the skill of being able to turn some of your facts and your statements into questions is going to be more effective. Can we all agree on that? Okay. If we couldn't, I was leaving. All right. Here it is. Telling is not selling. Remember this. Anybody ever heard this before? Selling is asking a series of questions that guide the client to the desired result. I said it before earlier, but remember, telling is not selling. So if you find yourself just like going down a list of bullet points in front of your clients all the time, and they're not saying anything, and you're just fire hosing them with information, are you selling? No, you be telling. All right, here's some do's and don'ts. So we talked about preparing some questions ahead of time. We're going to have a little exercise in a minute. We'll talk about some questions. Next, do ask clarifying questions before jumping to conclusions. Why? Told you this twice. Why do you want to ask clarifying questions?
Demonstrates that you're listening.
Yeah.
To be sure.
It keeps you from making assumptions and going down the wrong path. Both of those are great. Don't talk too fast. Well, the third one was basically a assumptive question. Do ask questions you know the answers to if it takes them to where you want them to go. All right, don't talk too fast. Why do you not want to talk too fast? Depending on who you're talking to, what could be the negative of that? So, what does mirroring and matching mean?
It's kind of like mirroring what they're saying and matching how their body language is and so forth like that.
So think about a castle, right? And around the castle, what do you call the thing that's around the castle? There's water in it, sometimes there are alligators. Moat, right? And then what is the thing that comes down? The drawbridge, right? So if you're trying to get into somebody's castle, you need them to put the drawbridge down, right? So if you come up to the castle and you're like, they're all wearing like green uniforms, and you've got like blue uniforms and spears and fire and guns and slingshots and bows and arrows and all sorts of bad stuff, wild dogs, do you think they're going to want to put the drawbridge down? No, what are they doing? they're getting ready to throw tar and all sorts of stuff on you, right? Shoot at you. You gotta try to get in the inner circle. You gotta get inside. People have been taught, like everybody's parents teach them, be on the lookout for salespeople. They're bad, right? And what's a descriptor word that deals with this, that goes with, be on the lookout for blank, especially salespeople. What's another?
Fast talking.
Fast talking, slick salespeople, even with ponytails. Don't let the tie fool you. That's a hippie freak right there. He ain't coming into the castle. So, that's like a wolf in sheep's clothing right there. No, just kidding. He's a wonderful guy. So by mirroring and matching, you become more like. Ronnie's getting the biggest kick out of it. Isn't it funny?
Hippie freak, that's funny.
He's really not a hippie freak, as far as you know. So anyway, if I mirror and match, if I'm more like you, now, you know, I can only become so much like you. One thing that I can change would be to mirror your rate of speech. If you're talking a little bit faster, I can talk a little bit faster. If you're talking a little bit slower, I can talk a little bit slower. And then, you know, then just sort of trying to be more like them is you're more likely to become. You're more likely to lower the drawbridge and listen to the rest of what you have to say. So that's all I'm saying there. So mirror and matching is a little skill that could help. Why do you not want to ask more than one question at a time?
Verbal vomit?
In a way,
Are you really listening?
hard to respond to that, hard for them to respond to it, and it's going to take you down. Who knows where you're going? You know, if you can ask a question, then you can deal with that response, or you can play off of that and move down the line. If you offer a couple, then you're maybe fighting a two-front war. You're opening yourself up for more objections. So trying to stay on topic is a good thing. That's one of the reasons why we say if you write down some questions, that can help you stay on topic. And then be careful, because some people, when they're trying to learn to ask questions, then they just start asking questions that don't have any relevance at all, and you don't want to do that. So make sure that questions have a purpose. When you're thinking about your questions to ask, maybe one thing to do is write down, what's the goal? Now, I'm trying to help Bob and Julie sell their house. I want to be their realtor to help sell their house. So, and their goals are they want to move to Georgia. And so sort of write down things, questions that might be relevant to that. All right, here's some listing questions. So these are some of the things you could ask, and there could be others, and I'll ask for some input here, but what's important to you when you think about the process of selling your home? Is that a valid, open-ended question? Yeah, what are some things people might say to that?
Good price.
Yeah, I want to get a good price, top dollar for the house. And then what does that tell you about the rest of your, if that's the first thing they say, what does that tell you about the rest of your presentation?
Has to be price oriented.
Yeah.
That's what you focus on.
Yeah, the price orientation is going to be very important. I mean, are they worried about what kind of cookies you're going to have at the open house? No, that's probably not their game plan. All right, what's another question that you could ask? Or what's another thing they could say based on that question? What's important to you when you think about the process of selling your home? We want to get it done quickly. What else? What about the agent? What might they say about you?
A lot of communication.
A lot of communication. Okay. So this leads to the next question. If your client has sold a home before, what did your previous agent do that you liked the best? You know, what will that tell you? It tells you basically what they want you to do. Unless their agent didn't do anything that they liked the best, then you'll know, they'll still say, you know, the agent didn't communicate with me, we didn't get top dollar, and they never put up a sign, and, you know, I haven't heard from them since. Well, then, obviously, now you know sort of how to guide your presentation. The next question, what should they have done differently? So then you can have them tell you, well, you know, if they would have just called us a couple times a week, if they would have just been able to, if the guy would have ever showed up for any of the inspections or what, whatever. They're gonna tell you a list of what they'd like to see. All right, here's another listing question. What would happen if your home didn't sell in the desired time frame? Some people don't like asking a question that has a negative outcome, but you can turn this around once you know what that, this is a motivation question, right? So what would happen if what are some responses you could get to this? What happens if your home didn't sell in your desired time frame?
We're gonna be homeless.
Or can't close on the next.
Yeah,
one.
couldn't close on the new house. Or, we bought the other house non-contingent, if this one doesn't sell, then I'm making 2 payments. What else? Well, my job, I gotta start my job in Indianapolis October 1, so it's gotta happen. Or they might say, nothing really changes, but I really don't wanna move anyway. What does that say?
You're not moving.
Yeah, that's not the answer you want, but that's a good one. I'd rather know that now than after I list it. Because how easy are they gonna be to work with when it comes time to, negotiating contracts and all the other stuff? Not too good. So what do you think are the most appealing features of your home? Is that a good question? What is that gonna bring up?
Happy emotions.
What's that?
Happy emotions. They're excited.
And you can sort of build rapport on that, because they're gonna tell you what they like the best about their home. You wanna make sure that, you at least understand that, and then you can say, oh, yeah, you know what, I love those curtains. That's what Benjamin always says. Big curtain man. So why did you choose to purchase this home versus the others that you saw? All those things can be very valuable to you. It can draw some emotion about their home, help you when it's time to market their home, and also, just helps you to get to know the people and know where they're coming from a little bit better. Any other great listing questions that you guys ask on a regular basis? I just pulled something random.
How much do you owe on the home?
Okay. So there's factual questions too that can come. It's not all just about motivation, emotion, but how much they owe could also be very relevant to their motivation, couldn't it? If you think the house is worth $500 and they owe $575, is that going to affect things a little bit? Yes. So that's a good one. Any other suggestions here?
What you like least about your house? I try to find out what it's gonna be, some potential negatives or objections that may pop up that
Yeah.
other people may see, just so that way they know that, hey, that could be something that other people don't like as well.
What's a maybe a little bit different way to phrase that might not be a negative?
What's the next on your list that you would change?
Yeah, something about changing. If you could change, if really money weren't that big of an object or whatever else in time, if you could change anything, what would you change? And then maybe follow that up with, well, are there any projects that you want to get done at the last minute before you get your house on the market? Those are good questions too. All right, versus going through the house and say, okay, holy shit, look at that. That's ketchup on the wall. You gotta get rid of that. This toilet seat is nasty. And how does that come off?
Very good.
Yeah, you're not gonna do it. So I'd rather have them tell us about some of these things. It's always better. That's one of the reasons like having a stager. It sort of takes, if the house is cluttered and whatever, it needs a lot of work, it's always better, the information is received better from whom? The stager or from the agent? Usually from the stager. Even then, sometimes it doesn't go that well, but much better from the stager. And it's certainly not coming off of you, so that's good. All right, let's see what else we got here. All right, so the rest of the stuff I came up with after Betsy left yesterday. So, how about buyer questions? What kind of questions we like to ask buyers?
They've been pre-qualified.
So pre-qualification, Justin likes the factual question. Let's get to the point.
Let's get it done.
You got any money? Show me. Show me the money.
Price range. Why do you want to move?
Yeah, why do you want to move? I said, what's important to you about buying a home? What else?
Price range.
Price range? Yeah, again, that's sort of factual, but all that's important.
How soon do you want to?
Time frame, yeah, that's good.
What area do you want to move to and why?
Yeah, where do you want to move to? But those, remember when we can answer the factual questions, but maybe some why you know, we always are looking for motivation, but that, you know, if I'm with you on this mission versus just knowing your time frame and your price range and whatever else, but if I'm there with you, if I want to help you because you got 2 dogs and, you know, they're cooped up and they're just unhappy, and, you know, how's it going to make you feel when Rover and Spotty get that big yard and they're running around and they got the dog park in the neighborhood? I mean, that's a corny example, right? But that humanizes the process, and I think that makes it. And Brian Buffini talks about relational versus what? Transactional. And is transactional a good way to be in the long run in this business? It's definitely.
What's your dream house? What's your ideal house? Because that gets to their overall aspirations beyond just facts.
Yeah. I wrote in, how do you think you'll feel when we find that perfect home for you? How's that going to make you feel? Yeah, and again, you could go into depth at personality profiling, and, you know, somebody who's analytical, is that question really that relevant to them? No. Like if you have Cindy who's an analytical person, you know, she's going to want to see a spreadsheet and all this kind of stuff, which I don't even know how to make spreadsheets. But, you know, if you have Harry, you're going to want to know about, you know, all the feelings.
That is true.
Okay. Here's a question I wrote down. What do you think could happen in this process if you didn't hire a professional like me to help guide you during all this? You know, is that a good question as we enter this new frontier of potentially buyers paying the commission? So why would you ask that question? What are you trying to flush out?
Past experiences.
I want to flush out the biggest horror show ever. You know, I mean, you want them to understand that there's a lot of pitfalls if they don't hire a professional like who? Like who? Say it. Like me. One more time. Like me. Hire a professional like me to help you through the process. You could go to jail. You could die. You could, you know, you can get tarred and feathered. There's all sorts of bad things that can happen, and you don't want that. I'm here to protect you. So that's good. All right, here's the exercise portion. Hopefully, we'll do this as a group, brother. I was going to get you to pair up, but I know y'all. So these are statements that we want to make into questions. So this is how you have to be able to do this in order to master this process. So again, we could print up a list of bullets about why it's great to list or buy with you, couldn't we? How effective, if we did that, why wouldn't we just mail or just hand that over? Say, hey, thanks for coming to the thing. Read this, sign this, I'll be in the other room if you have any questions. Is that an effective selling technique? Not if you want to sell. Okay, so you have to be able to use questions to help people understand these valuable bullet points or valuable assets to working with you or going to wherever you want to go. So somebody will, or we can work this as a group, but here's a factoid, and we're going to try to turn this into a question. Hometown is the largest locally owned brokerage in the Richmond area and has been in business for over 30 years. Okay, you can tell people that, and that's pretty impressive, isn't it? How do you sell people that?
Don't you want to work with somebody that knows the local market?
You could always just.
Now we're on the right path.
What have you heard about Hometown?
Okay, you start with that. Or do you know much about Hometown Realty? And the answer, they could respond what?
No.
Yes or no? Let's say they say no. What would be a good follow-up question to that?
How do you like?
That is a follow-up question to that.
Do you like
I
to
don't
work
like
with big national firms, or do you prefer working with somebody local to the market?
I think that's a good one.
How many years do you think Hometown's been in business?
Would you rather go?
It's really neat, we've also developed a board game. And for every question you get right, you do this, and then there's a place where you slide down the thing. Oh, that's Candyland. So you could say, you could go down that like where Nate's going. So what's important to you about the company that you hire to sell your house? Well, I don't really know what should be that important. And you could say, well, obviously you're looking for somebody who, is a big national firm that sort of like internet deal, or you're looking for something more like a face-to-face relationship. And then maybe you could go to say, well, how long do you think Hometown Realty's been in business right here in this community? That's selling them on it versus telling them. Okay? So how are we doing so far? You like that? Like this game? All right. Here's a buyer situation. This house has exactly what you want. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and a cul-de-sac lot. So buy this sucker.
Did you see yourself living in this house?
There you go.
Okay. Are you pre-qualified? And what amount? Are you willing to pay my commission?
Show me the money.
Okay, so who else? Give me another one.
You mentioned 3 bedrooms are important to you. This home has 3 bedrooms, plus a private lot. Was that important to you as well?
Yeah, you could go back through those and say, so this one, so Nate, what do you think about this house so far? And whatever he says. So then you could say, well, if I'm right, you're looking for 3 bedrooms. How many baths were you looking for? At least 2. How many we got right here? And how about this? What is this round thing right here? What do we call this thing where the cars come down and they turn around and your kids can play? Boom. Now we wouldn't be as funny as that, but it's just natural for me. So you just sort of remind them of what they were looking for and say, so how does this one make you feel? Versus just saying, okay, this one has 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and it's on a cul-de-sac. Are you ready to buy? Please, thank you for working with Redfin. Nothing against Redfin, we're a great company. All right, so here's another one. So you're sitting at the listing table, and here a statement that I think we'd all agree with is, not offering a commission to a buyer's agent is stupid. How could we rephrase that in a question? Ariel.
Tell me what you know about commission.
I know that it's a ripoff. The word commission, I'll just say this, is the word commission, the people that are getting ready to pay commission love the word commission. What is commission? What are the sort of the, what comes to mind when you think about commission?
Less money for me.
Less money for me and
You're taking my money.
yeah, that's right. So getting away from the word commission is not a bad thing. What is commission? Why is there commission?
Representation.
Incentivization, right? And why is there commission? It's from the seller side, why would you offer a commission?
To incentivize people.
To incentivize people to come sell your house, right? And so if there is no incentive, then there is no motivation for anything to happen, right? So maybe that's the line we want to go down. So how would we do that?
But can I play devil's advocate here? Doesn't
No.
that kind of make
No,
it
see,
seem
when
like we're...
Ariel's class, you can say whatever you want. No, just kidding, go ahead.
Doesn't that kind of send a message that we're appealing to the buyer's agent and not the buyers? The incentive to I hear what you're saying,
Sure.
I just feel like it can be perceived
And I totally understand some great objections.
yeah.
So, and I totally understand what you want, because really, I mean, for you, what's this about?
Selling the house,
Selling the house, and doing what? Do you want to make top dollar?
preferably.
How then, what's the strategy that's gonna get us top dollar? Bringing the most people here or bringing the fewest people here?
Most.
The most, right? And so how do we incentivize that traffic? How do we do it?
By taking great photos and hosting open houses
No
and.
question.
Posting it online.
Yeah.
No question. How many homes are on the market in the MLS today?
Not as many as, I don't know.
But more than there were, how about 6 months ago?
Probably more,
And how about 6 months before that?
definitely more.
So where is the inventory is going up, and maybe the demand is still good, but inventory is going up. So then, that means buyers have more choices, right? So how do we get them to your house? We have great pictures and whatever, but couldn't we still get lost in that? How do we really incentivize people to come?
That was very good. You're right.
So that's where we're going with it, okay? See, I'll let you play, and I will. Did I make a lot of statements to her during that objection? Did I make any? I don't really think I did. Maybe one or two, anyway. Okay, so back to that. So not offer commission is really stupid. What, we're trying to motivate people, we're gonna incentivize people. What else could we say? Is there any other questions we could ask that would help with that?
You can always give them a scenario. If you have 3 houses that have awesome pictures that are priced pretty similarly, and 2 of the 3 are offering a commission, one's not, which do you think might get the least attention?
Yeah. How many houses, Larry, I forget, how many houses does the average agent in Richmond sell a year?
3, based on what I've heard.
Unbelievable, right? I mean, what if you went to work and only had 3 successes all year? And that's average. So there's just as many below as above, right? So some of these people ain't hitting on a lot, are they? So what would you do if you're in that bunch? If you're in the 50% of the agents and your house is offering 1% or no percent commission, are you bringing your buyer there?
Absolutely not.
So do you think we might want to try to incentivize these people to do something?
I think we should offer 3.5.
Yeah, let's do the right thing. Maybe a listing agent bonus too for great objection. Okay. All right, we'll move on, just a couple more, and then you're free to go do whatever you need to do. All right, a lot of times we talk about our marketing, right? I'm gonna do the following things to sell your home or to help you buy a home. Bang, 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 bang. How do we turn that into questions that are more selling than telling?
What's important to you from a marketing perspective?
Okay? Asking that, what's important to you, that helps flush out things that they're looking for.
Yep.
That's good. What else?
What are some of the favorite things you've seen realtors do out in public to sell homes?
Very good. Very good. And if there's objections, like, well, one thing we don't ever want to, we don't want to sign. Or we don't want to do an open house, or whatever else, then you can sort of go that, well, you know, we don't have to have a sign. How would you respond to that? How would you ask questions to get over? Very few people are going to say this, but this is a good one to just have a little exercise on. So we don't want to have a sign. What do you say?
Why wouldn't you want to sign?
Because I don't want a freaking sign. Get out of my house.
Do you want people to know?
So when you're handling objections, well, this is the objection. What do you always do when you get an objection? 99% of the time, what do you want to do? Agree.
So glad you brought that.
Unbelievable idea. No sign. You don't want to do that. Hey, you don't want to sign. I can appreciate that. Tell me why. Tell me what's important to you about not having a sign. Well, there's so many nosy neighbors and all those things. Then where do you go from there?
Well, wouldn't you want your neighbors to know about your home being sold because they'd like to maybe pick their neighbors?
So you asked a question, but then what did you do right after that? You answered it.
Oh. Right.
So that's step 1, check. Step 2, check minus. Let them answer. So what was the first part you said? Wouldn't you want?
Your neighbors to know your home is for sale.
I guess, why would that be a good thing? Don't tell me, ask me.
Would you like your neighbors to be able to
About your
pick their
house
neighbors?
in the market, it's gonna help you sell.
think so, Ronnie. What else could the neighbors, why would it be an asset to let them know?
A lot of people have friends that say, hey, I love your neighborhood.
Don't
Always
phrase that in
let
a
them know.
question and then you get a check plus.
I'm answering your question, you just asked me a question.
Answer with a question.
Guess he was the old dog new tricks.
You think maybe those neighbors, they may have friends that wanna move into the area.
Yeah, or how many of your neighbors, I mean, this is a great neighborhood, isn't it, right? I mean, you love it, don't you?
We love it.
Yes, sir. It's awesome. How many of your neighbors think they might know somebody who would wanna move you? Think that's a possibility?
Several of them.
Yeah. And if they don't know that your house is on the market, you think we might be missing out? I don't know. I mean, you tell me.
It could be. Could be a good point there.
Let's do the right thing, go ahead and get that sign up. I'll leave it for you, because you hammer this thing, because the ground's really hard. All right, you sort of see what we're trying to do here? Do you think we could change some of the natural things that we do in order to ask more questions? That's all I'm asking you to do, is just try to remember this. You're not gonna become the Obi-Wan Kenobi Jedi master of this overnight. You have to practice it, but you have to be cognizant of it and then apply it in real life. So, anybody have any questions? You better have questions, because you're supposed to be asking lots of questions. But it's fine, you don't have any from there. All right, y'all get out of here. Thank you very much.